Well, thank you everybody for being patient while we got that set up. This is our Tech Talk on going further with iPad, where we're going to talk about especially App Store and iTunes and some other things, but mainly one of those questions that I get all the time, which is, hey, how do I download apps? How do I download music, and how do I manage that across my devices? So we'll go ahead and jump right in here. The first part we want to talk about is the App Store, because at least from the experience that I've gotten with working with all of you, is that the apps are more of a primary focus, with iTunes being a second. So I'm assuming everybody's got an Apple ID set up, correct? Okay, perfect, good. So that's the first thing that we need. And so I'm going to go jump into the App Store. For everybody who's on iOS 7, this is how it's going to look. For everybody who's on iOS 6 or below, it's going to function the exact same. It's just going to look a little bit different. So the way the apps...
I don't know which one you are. I don't know.
If it looks, I think I'm almost certain you're on iOS 7. So if it looks like that, where you've got the little white background or border on the bottom, you're on iOS 7. I actually know you're on iOS 7, so you're good, Andrew. But basically, the way it's broken into is that it tries to make it a little bit easier to discover apps if you don't know what you're looking for. So it's got a couple categories right off the bat. Near the top, you've got your games, kids, newsstand, and more. Those are simply categories. So when you hit more, for example, we'll see this pop up. And this is where you can break it down into books, business, catalog, education, and all the different categories that they have. So the idea is that you go to the App Store, you may not necessarily know what you're looking for. It's just trying to find out different apps that you can get and all that kind of stuff. So if I tap on education, for example, this is what happens. It takes me into the education app store. So from here, we can look at apps that are directly related to that genre. So for example, let's go ahead and I'm going to tap on Questmate since it's free. If you guys want to follow along here for a second, this is how when you look at an app, this is what you see. So if you tap on the name of an app, it's going to bring you up this little page. And this page tells you a lot. First off, it tells you the price. In this case, this one is free. So if we see the button right here, that's normally going to say free or $1.99, 99 cents, whatever it is. That is your price tag. And that does more than just give you the price. And we'll talk about that here in a second. But one of the cool things about this view is that it gives you all the kind of need-to-know information. So it gives you an image or a couple images based on what the app looks like when you're using it. So we can kind of scroll through these and see what the app is about. You can scroll down a little bit, and then you also get a broader description of what the app does, you're fine, Sam, who it would be for, and a kind of snippet of critical reviews that you get from professionals. The other cool thing is that you do get the reviews section, which this one doesn't have any reviews, so it's kind of a bad example. But the reviews are fantastic because they do two things. Obviously, they tell you how people love the app or how they don't like the app, but it also shows you how it's changed over time, because it gives you reviews based on either all versions of the app or the most current version. So for example, I remember when Netflix first came out on the iPad, it was horrible. The interface was clunky, it was slow, it didn't work right, and everybody gave it a 1.5 star. And so they started and they gave those reviews. Netflix then said, okay, this is how we can do better. And so what they did from there was they changed the app, how it works all together and how it looks, and now I think it's a 4-star app. So it's one of those things where reviews are your power, your voice, to be able to say, hey, this app is horrible, you guys need to fix it. The one downside to the App Store, to all Android and Windows alike, as well as iPad, is that there isn't a demo mode. So if you see an app with a price tag, make sure it's what you want before you buy it, because normally you cannot get a refund after the fact. There have been some exceptions when I worked at Apple that we got iTunes to do that, but in general, that's kind of the policies. You buy it, you own it, and you don't get a refund. So the other thing that's cool is that you're going to see another tab right here, and that is the related tab. So This is great because, again, if you, for example, Netflix, if you go to Netflix and you click on related, it's going to pull up Hulu, it's going to pull up Amazon Prime Instant Video, and all those other entertainment apps that function pretty similar. So this is great for, again, if you don't know what you're looking for, but you're just trying to kind of peruse the App Store to find something that might interest you, this is how you do it. So let me get out of here. And that kind of covers the top bar where it gives you your different categories and things like that. But let's say you do know what you're looking for. That's where this guy right up here, the little search bar, is fantastic because it will, you type in whatever you're looking for and it will pull it up. The thing to keep in mind is that this is a search bar where it's kind of like Google, where if it recognizes it, it's going to pull up the most hit application. So if I type in net, start typing in Netflix, but I just put NET, it's most likely going to put Netflix as top. So let's find out. So if we do, see Netflix right here. The thing to keep in mind is that if you're looking for an app that's not really popular yet, or if it's a new app, and if it doesn't show up here, that's fine. You can type out the name of the entire app, hit enter, and as long as it exists, it's going to find it. So I'm trying to think of a good one. Think of an app that may not have much recognition.
Mine did. I put in net and it didn't budge.
Okay, and that are you connected to the Wi-Fi right now? Let's see.
No, you are.
Okay, well, you typed Netflix wrong. So if it's wrong, again, it's not going to pull up. I was trying to pull up one that did it. Yeah, so if you do spell it wrong, it's not gonna know what to look for. But let's pretend backdrop's gonna pull up here. I can hit enter, and as soon as it's done searching, it's gonna pull up all the apps that have backdrops in the name of the application itself. Which mine, I apologize, I have an iPad too, so mine is extremely slow. Everybody else I think has newer iPads than me at this point, so. Oh my goodness. Let's try this again. Just getting nothing with the search bar at this point. There we go. So type in backdrops, and there's only one app that I know of and that apparently the App Store knows of that's called Backdrops. So it pulls it up on the very top left, right here, and then all these other ones are apps that fit that description. So if it can't find what you're looking for, so let's say USAA, which is a bank insurance company, let's say they didn't have an app. If I typed in USAA, it would say, okay, well, we don't have this app, but we have an app for Bank of America, or we have an app for Regions or anything like that. So if it doesn't have that app, it's going to find something as close to it as possible. Normally, that's not the case with Apple. It's kind of changed over the years, but that used to be the case with Android. They got a lot more apps, and so you look for something on an iPad, and you can find it, but it would find something relatively close. That's not so much of an issue nowadays. But with mine, this is a great example too, because you'll see on backdrops it says open. It does not say free. It does not say the price of what it was, which was free anyway. But if I tap on open, this is what's great about this. It actually takes you directly into the application. So if you forget that you have that application, you can pull it up directly through the App Store without having to go through 5 different screens like you used to have to do. This is one of my favorite apps, by the way. This is a great app if you're looking for backgrounds for your iPad, because what it is it's just basically a bunch of different people taking photos around the world of different objects, different things, and putting them on this website.
And mine doesn't say free, mine says $2.99.
Oh no! Okay.
That drops right now wallpaper.
That is a phenomenal example. Okay, so here's the other thing about the App Store economy. If you find it free, buy it. Even if you don't think you'll use it, buy it, because I'll tell you why here in a second, or I'll tell you what you can do later. But the reason why you want to do that is because clearly they've changed the price. And I've seen that happen too. 1Password, I know a couple of you guys showed up for the class for that. 1Password used to be free, and now it's I think $9.99 for the iPad version, and it's $49 for the Mac. So as apps become more popular, developers get a little bit more greedy. So if you see an app for free, download it. And the reason being is the next thing I was going to show you, which is on the iPad, you're going to see on the bottom here, it it's really hard to see on my screen because it's too bright, but you're going to see purchase and updates on the bottom of your App Store screen. And when you tap on that, this is what's great. So the reason I said buy that app, even if you're not going to use it, you can buy it and then delete it if you want, is because once you buy that app, even if they change the price, such as with backdrops, I never have to pay for it because I own the license. Same thing there. If you see an app that you really like that you know is on sale or you know it's free right now, download it. Because you can delete it off your phone or your iPad to save space, but then you can always download it again later because you own that license until Apple doesn't exist anymore. So basically all these apps that I have, like I've got tons of games and stuff that Katie's downloaded. I've got my Nissan stuff, which isn't on my iPad, but it's on my phone, hence why I've got the cloud here. I can just download that, and it will start downloading it to my device. So
you're still showing free though, because you loaded it, it was free, is that what you're saying?
correct. So what if you buy it when it's free and then it changes price later, you don't ever have to pay for it. You own the license. Same.
And then one, you can pull it up as free, and if you scroll down, the exact same thing is 99 cents. Now you will, if you click on free, it will be free.
So here's the thing, yeah, absolutely. A lot of developers make a free version, and they usually call it Lite, like L-I-T-E, and then they make a paid version. Usually the free versions are the same thing, except they have ads in them.
They what?
Ads. So like, I know Candy Crush, I think it's free, my grandma plays it, and she doesn't pay for it, but I know she's always asking me about the ads on the bottom of the screen, and that's why.
Well, do all the ones you pay for it not have ads?
In general, yes, with a few exceptions. But in general, that's kind of the benefit of the light versus paid version. With some examples I've seen, like there was a scientific calculator that I bought a while back, and the free version didn't have some of the functions, but the paid version had more functions. So you just kind of have to look at the two differences. There's always somewhere where they get you, but in general, if it's a light version, as long as you can put up with the app, with the ads, I'd say do it. But the other thing is on the purchase section, you're going to see two really important things. You're going to see open. You're going to see, an open, cloud, or not on this iPad or iPhone. Whatever, if you tap on not on this iPad, you're going to click on that, and then you're going to see all the apps that you own, but just simply aren't in the iPad currently. If we go back and we take a look at these guys, when you have anything that you already own and it's actually on the iPad, you're going to see the open versus the cloud. The cloud with the down arrow simply means that you can download. So again, and the way that works is, how's it going, guys?
Sorry.
I understand, this weather's kind of crazy. So the way it works with the cloud is that that's just how Apple symbolizes that you own that app and you can download it again. It belongs on the cloud. The next thing we want to talk about, this hidden here. The other thing that we want to talk about is on the very bottom right, and it's where the update bar is. So if we tap on that, normally you're going to see a number, a badge, telling you, hey, you've got 10 or 12 updates that need to be done. Mine right now, I don't have any, and that's because I've got mine set on automatic app updates. I will say, and we'll talk about how you turn that on here in a second, but I will say that that's one of the best parts of iOS 7, is that you no longer have to manage this because it'll do it for you. If you start seeing those numbers with all the badges on there, that means you haven't turned that on. And so what you then have to do is you have to go in here, you have to decide which ones you want an update on, and it's a pain. That's how we used to have to do it, but we don't have to anymore. So let me cover how to get there. So if I go all the way back to my home screen, I'm going to go into Settings, and we're going to tap on, you're going to find a section that's iTunes and App Store. So if I scroll down a little bit on the left bar here, we're going to tap on this guy where it says iTunes and App Store. And when you go in there, you see how there's a couple of things here, but my apps updates are on. So everything else is off. So what that means is that anytime there's an update, so Netflix updates their app. As long as I'm connected to Wi-Fi, I don't have to do anything. It updates for me. it does it in the background, it doesn't slow anything down, so you can keep using your iPad the entire time, and you'll never know the difference. But it's nice because it takes away that whole process of having to check that every day, and takes it out of your hands and does it for you. Some of these other things where it's got music, apps, and books, those are one of those things where if you have multiple devices, like I've got an iPhone, I've got a Mac, and I've got an iPad, if those were on, let's say I turned music on, that would mean that if I bought, let's say I bought the album from Seal, and I bought it on my iPad, it would show up on my Mac and my iPhone. I don't have that on because, unfortunately, I have a data cap with Comcast, and I have a roommate who uses a lot of data. So the thing is with apps, especially as they're getting bigger and bigger, you don't necessarily want those on because it will eat up the amount of data that you have. Or if you're on cellular, you can potentially go over the amount that Verizon or AT&T or any of those guys gives you.
So it'll automatically make, then when you go on your other device, it won't show a cloud, it'll show.
Correct, it'll say open because it's already on there. If it's,
Oh.
yeah, so let's say I downloaded the USAA app on my iPhone and my iPad and my Mac had the automatic download for updates or for apps on, it would download those on those devices. Yes.
So if it has update on that other screen, it'll eventually show open, right?
Correct. Well, you mean you mean in the App Store where it
Right, App
says?
Store.
Okay. And here, yes, it'll eventually say open. Right now, if you don't have that on, it probably says update or install. I can't remember what the button is. But it'll tell you to update all up here on the top right if you don't have that setting on, and then you'll be able to individually update each app. The automatic app update just makes that whole process easy.
Well, I had it on, and it's not, apparently there are about 5 that aren't updated.
Are you connected to your Wi-Fi? Okay, there could be another issue. Sometimes, and this is where I've had it happen every once in a while, you need to restart your iPad, power cycle it, so you turn it off all the way, wait for about 30 seconds to turn it back on. I've had that happen with this one. As soon as I turn it back on, it went through those updates. A lot of times that happens if you haven't turned your iPad off in a while, the CPU inside just kind of starts stalling. It doesn't really know what to do. And we covered that last week. Always, at least once a week, shut your iPad down. I know Apple will tell you otherwise, but having worked there for a long time and seen thousands of iPads come through, do it once a week. It's just like a computer. You don't have to shut it down every night, but you definitely want to restart it because it's just going to make things run a little bit smoother in the long run. Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about music or iTunes. This is where iTunes gets confusing because on the PC and on the Mac, iTunes does everything. It does syncing. It does music purchases as well as backup and all this other kind of stuff. Think of iTunes on your iPad as simply a place to buy music or movies or TV shows or anything like that. But it's just a place of purchase. You're not backing up anything through here. You're not using it to organize and things like that like you do on your computer. This is strictly for your iPad or your iPhone. So iTunes runs pretty much the same way as App Store. I mean, they share a lot of similarities in terms of how it's designed. On the bottom here, you've got basically all the different ways that you can purchase media on the iTunes Store. You've got your music, you've got your movies, you've got TV shows, audiobooks as well is in there, and then you've got top charts and purchase. Up here on the top, you're going to have your all genres. You can break down by specific genre. You can also do a search for a specific artist or song. And then in the front here, you're going to see kind of what's popular and what's new. So like if I wanted to say, let's say I wanted to look up Andrew Sisters. So I could look up Andrew Sisters right here in the top right. It's going to find what it thinks is correct, or you can just hit search. And then when it's done, it's going to, this is how it looks now. It's really ugly, but this is how Apple decided to fit it around their App Store like mantra as best as they could. So it breaks it down based on the songs individually first. And then it breaks it down by the albums and then podcasts and everything else. But you can see this breakdown up here on the top. So let's say I'm looking for a specific album from Andrew Sisters. I can then tap on the album right up here. and then when this loads, then I can actually go through and choose any of the albums specifically. So let's say I wanted to look up I Want to Be Loved remastered single. So when you tap on that, again, it looks almost identical to the App Store. You're going to see the price of the album, or in this case, it's just the one song since it's a single. And then you're going to see every song in that album below there. Again, you've got reviews. Reviews on music are much more subjective than they are on apps. But in general, it's pretty much the same. But you can also get a quick preview. Let's see real quick. I don't have any volume on here right now, I believe. You can hear it a little bit, but there we go. So instead of just buying albums outright, you can actually listen to what you're buying before you buy it. And yes, I do listen to it. See what?
You just skip one of the songs.
Yeah, just tap on the name of any of the songs. It'll give you a quick preview. They're a minute long now. They used to be 30 seconds, and now a minute. And yes, I do listen to Andrew Sisters. But that's pretty much how you search for music. Again, if you're kind of just, if you don't know what you're looking for, you just kind of want to peruse the store again, you can tap on more up here in the front page, and you can start looking for different genres. So if I want to look up blues, for example, you can tap on that. It's going to pull up the most popular blues artists of right now. It's going to pull up the highest selling, and then what most people are listening to at the moment. So it's a great way to kind of just see what's on music right now, see what's on the iTunes store, and purchase new music straight through here. I used to be a huge CD guy, and I still kind of am a little bit, depending on who it's by. But buying music on iTunes is pretty sweet because with, as we get more and more devices, as we get more, especially more Apple devices, or even Windows, what's cool about it is that once you buy that, it's just like an app. You own that license. So that means that I could download an album from the ink spots, and then on my iPad, and then on my computer I can go home and download it again, or on my phone I can download it again, or on my work computer I can download it again, without ever having to pay for it. So again, that's part of your Apple ID. It's like every time you purchase something, they keep a record of it so that you own it, so that you can download it as many times as you want. So again, it's true ownership. It's not like some of the other services out there where if you cancel a membership, you lose it. I mean, there is no membership for iTunes, so at least right now. So that's kind of the way it works, and it's nice to be able to say, hey, I want to buy a song and I want Katie to be able to have it too, or I want it to be able to be on my other device. I can do that without having to buy it again. So it's pretty nice. And again, just like the App Store where you have the purchase section, if I tap on purchase on the bottom right of the iTunes Store, it'll show me all of the different albums that I've bought, or different songs that I've bought through iTunes. So like, again, I've got a couple Andrew Sisters songs, at least through iTunes I've only bought the one, but I can download that directly on my iPad, even though I bought it on my computer 8 years ago. So it's pretty cool. It allows you to kind of intermingle your iPad and music selection without ever having to plug into your computer. The one exception to that is if you have a lot of CD-based music, that you will still have to use your computer unless you use iTunes Match, which I will talk about here in a second. But before I move on, does anybody have any questions? Because I know it's a lot of information to kind of gloss over really quick.
This is kind of a funny angle. If you say you own the license, that still doesn't give you the privilege to, like, if you ran a restaurant or a store, they have to invite you.
Correct.
Your license for your
for
use.
personal use, yeah. You can make copies of it,
Yeah.
but you cannot put it in. You cannot play it in public without paying
I was
for it.
thinking ASCAP.
Yeah. So that is a good point. Don't. My school got in trouble a few years back for playing a Disney movie without getting the royalties from, or paying the royalties to Disney. They got huge trouble. This was an Air Force-based school, so always be careful about that type of stuff. But in general, for personal use, yeah, you own the license, just not for widespread use. So, and really quick, movies and TV shows work exactly the same. One of the really nice things about buying movies on here now, on the iPad, is that, or any of the Apple devices, is that normally movies come out about a week or 5 days earlier than they do with DVD or Blu-ray release, and a lot of times they're cheaper. So just keep that in mind. I mean, you do lose some of those special features if you're a movie buff like I am. You do lose some of the special features, but in general, you get the same movie, really high quality, and you get it a little bit early. This is really great for TV shows, honestly, not necessarily so much for movies. TV shows, especially if you like BBC TV shows, are extremely cheap on iTunes. So, just a little heads up.
Are there any free movies out there? I know there's like free apps, but that's not expensive.
Yes. Not really. Not through iTunes. Every once in a while, they may do, like during the Cannes Festival, they may have one of those for free. But in general, through iTunes, no. There are some other apps that do provide free movie streaming and things like that. But in general, movie like the MPAA cracked down on a lot of those sites. So in terms of apps, some places still make apps where you can stream them, but you don't actually own movies.
You can't rent movies.
Well, actually, with iTunes, you can rent and purchase.
Okay.
So the cool thing too about purchasing or renting with the iPad is that you can then put them on your TV through the Apple TV or through your Mac or anything like that. So you have a lot of flexibility. In general, I'm a Blu-ray guy. I love having the surround sound and all that kind of stuff. But every once in a while, especially with TV shows, I buy them on iTunes because, again, I can download them on any of my devices. And, you know, I can start watching a movie here on my lunch break, and then I can get home and stream it to my Apple TV, and it can from exactly where. So it's pretty amazing, all the cool things you can do. See, Don, you're laughing. So there's tons of stuff you can do with iTunes. There is one other feature that nobody really talks about, including myself, and that's largely because it doesn't really work that great, but it's called Genius. And the idea is that it tries to find the best fit music selection or the best fit movie selection based on the things that you've purchased or watched in the past. So
Where's Genius?
Genius is on the very bottom of the iTunes end here. It doesn't work that great, at least not right now. I'm hoping that's something that eventually evolves in the future, but I've been recommended things that are nothing like what anything else that I actually listen to. So that is iTunes. So before I move on to the next thing, which is going to be how you actually listen to music and some of the other things you can do with music, does anybody have any questions? There.
Okay, this is the dumb one. So if you purchase a movie or a song and you play it, then it's eating up your
Internal space. Yes. Very good point. So when you do keep, yes, just like with downloading apps, when you download movies, especially movies because they're the largest files out there, you do have to worry about the internal space on your iPad or your iPhone or whatever you're downloading them to, because they do eat up.
Could you store them to a hard drive?
Yes and no. So you can store them on your computer. Computers typically have a lot more space. The other thing you can do is you can download it and then delete it. If you're done and then you want to watch it later, you can download it again, just like you do with apps, because again, you own that license. So that's the feature that is called is iTunes in the cloud. It's something that they introduced about a year ago. And anytime you buy a movie, let's say I bought A Good Year with Russell Crowe, I could download it, watch it, and then delete it off my iPad, but I own that license again, so I can download it at any point. So you have to be careful, but don't be afraid to delete a movie or a series of songs in case you need to free the space, because you own it from that point on. And briefly, earlier I mentioned iTunes Match, because with iTunes there's not really a membership. You pay for each song individually, and then any music that you bought from CDs you can put in your computer and then put on your iPad. But that's kind of a cumbersome process. In order to put a new album that I just bought over the weekend on my computer, what I used to have to do, put it on the computer, burn it to the hard drive, and then plug in my iPad. What iTunes Match does is that's the only part of iTunes that you would ever pay for if you choose to do so. It's $25 a year, and what it does is it allows you to have all of your music available to you wherever you are, even if you didn't buy it from iTunes. So I have 9,554 songs. Probably 500 of those songs I actually bought from iTunes. Everything else I amassed growing up with my CD collection. and I've got them all in my computer, what iTunes Match does the first time is it looks at my library, it sees what it can find in the iTunes Store library, and anything else that it can't, it uploads to my own personal server. So then I can be in Istanbul, and I've got my iPhone, and I can pull up any of the music that used to only be on my computer directly on my phone. So that's one of the coolest things about iTunes now, and that's something that not a lot of people need or want. But for the people that do have a lot of music and don't want to have to keep plugging in, it's such an amazing service.
So how do you purchase it?
So iTunes Match, you actually purchase it through the settings, I think. On the iPad, it's a little bit different. I did it on the computer. But if you go into, again, iTunes and App Store, you'll see iTunes Match. If it's off, which it should be on most everybody's, if you turn that on, it should ask you for if you want to approve the $24.99 a year annual fee. But then from there, I can go into my music, and I can go into, so I've got all my Lindsey Sterling stuff, which is not on my device, so it's not eating up space at all. But I can listen to any of her music straight through here. And she's a violinist, so it's one of the things that I like. But in general, I've got all my music right at my fingertips without ever having to plug back in. I've got all my James Bond soundtracks, everything that I can think of, right through fingertips. So it's really cool. And when you think about it, $25 a year is nothing compared to what we pay for Comcast or what we even pay for Netflix. Netflix is doing kind of the same thing for movies and TV shows, but you're paying $10 a month. So you're looking at $120 a year. So it's, if you do have a lot of music, it's a great, great little side thing you can do with iTunes. So speaking of music, let's go into the music app. This has seen a lot of changes with the introduction of iOS 7, or even the last couple versions of iOS 6, in terms of what it can do and what it's there for. Now, music really is two different functions in one. You've got iTunes Radio, and then you've got your music collection, so anything that you have on the device or anything you've got through iTunes Match. So let's talk about iTunes Radio first because it's newer and there's a lot to it. We've talked about it briefly before, but iTunes Radio is a great way of kind of combining all the great things about Spotify and Pandora, which are other internet radio services, with the vast library of iTunes. Because iTunes still is the largest digital store for music out there. Amazon is coming close, but Apple kind of has that stranglehold because they had the iPod blow up back in early 2000s. But what it does is that, so by the way, I never listen to 50 Cent and I don't listen to rap. But the way it works is that it shows you all, at first it shows you all the major stations that are popular right now. So NPR, this first place station where it shows you a lot of new and upcoming artists and things like that. But the best part about iTunes Radio is building your own stations. So, for example, you'll see here I've got Fink, Stateless, Frank Sinatra, and the Andrews Sisters Radio. The great thing about these are that I can tap on Andrews Sisters. What it does from there is it builds a radio station based on music that's similar to the Andrews Sisters. So, for example, it's going to play the Andrews Sisters first. Makes sense. But from here, what it'll do is it'll find artists that are similar. So Pandora's kind of a pain because it would pull Andrews Sisters, and then the next thing you would hear Michael Bublé, which is 60 years difference and not something that I would ever think about listening to if I'm in the mood for Andrews Sisters. This works much better in the sense that it learns much faster. So when I pull up Andrews Sisters Radio, there's this little star here on the bottom next to the pause and skip buttons. If I tap that, I get a couple options. The first one is play more like this. The second one, never play this again. The third one is add to my iTunes wishlist. So this is where you start really teaching iTunes Radio, hey, this is how I want my station. So if I hit play more like this, it's going to know, hey, obviously, it should know that anyway since it's Andrews Sisters. But since it doesn't, it'll teach it to look for more Andrews Sisters music, but also more music like the Andrews Sisters. If I hit skip, I get Dino next. So in general, I think about listening to Dean Martin when I think of the Andrews Sisters. So again, I can hit play more like this. and then I'm going to skip it just so I can teach it a little bit. Doris Day. Perfect. So, granted, this is not how it looks when you first started. I had to do a lot of tailoring to get it here, but a lot less. You know, my fiance spent 2 years tailoring her Pandora radio station just to get it to play the music that she should be hearing in that radio station. I've only been using this for 3 months. So the fact that it's already pulled up, 3 hits right after another of very, very similar music is awesome. The other thing you can do, and this is what's great about iTunes Radio, there's this little information button up here. You can tune your radio station even further. So right now, it's set for variety. I can tune it to where it's just the hits, or I can tune it to discovery. So some of those, some of the smaller, less known Doris Days of the time will get played as well, instead of just, being Frank Sinatra, Doris Day, Ink Spots, all that kind of stuff. It's going to get a little bit more of the obscure artists, so that you get a more representative picture of that radio station. Right now, I've got mine set on variety because I want a little bit of both. If you do hits, that's when you're going to start seeing a little bit more limitations. But in general, it works extremely well. It's a great system, and you can think of just about any artist or any genre and start pulling up information. The other thing that makes it a little bit easier, for example, it's playing Doris Day. I can hit new station from this artist or new station from this song directly without ever having to go to a different screen. The advantages of those are, let's say I'm listening to Andrew Sisters and I get Michael Bublé. I may not think of listening to Michael Bublé when I want to hear Andrew Sisters, but I may still want to listen to him later in his own subset. So you can make your own radio station directly through here. There's also the allow explicit tracks with music from this area. You don't have to worry about it, obviously. But if you like hip hop, I won't blame you, I guess, if you do. But you can always listen to the full songs there. So you get a lot of tailoring and a lot of personalization there.
Why is my screen moving like this?
Okay, it's moving because you've never set up iTunes Radio before. And so what it's doing is it's just showing you a glimpse of all the different radio stations that are on there right now and popular. Yes, Dave?
I've got mine set up, but I haven't done any stations yet. But it shows 2 stations as my station. So I don't know how they got there. Is there a way to erase them?
I can't remember. There should be.
And how do you set it up?
Okay, yeah, so give me 1 second. So to delete a station, you should be able to... So in the old one, all you had to do was hold it, kind of like you're deleting an app. Now I think they may have an edit button. Yeah, here we go. So edit is right here next to new stations. If you hit edit there, it'll show you all your different radio stations, through which you can then delete through there by swiping.
Okay, thanks.
Not a problem. Okay, and to set it up, what you do is, I think, let's see, just hit start listening, I believe. Perfect. So now it's going to show you the featured stations, and then that little plus there is going to show you, you can just hit plus and then type in a genre or the name of an artist or the name of a song, and it will build the radio station.
You're about to hear this week's top 50 songs on the iTunes Country Chart. Start right now.
And here is a phenomenal time to mention Control Center. If you're ever in an embarrassing situation and music starts playing or noises start playing, swipe up from the bottom of your screen until you get this guy. And then there's a little volume bar on the bottom left. Just drag that all the way to the left. There you go.
Well, how do you turn it off?
To turn it off, hit the pause button. Sorry, Lil. So you are still in the iTunes store. You want to get back to the music app. So tap on that, and then you should see the iTunes Radio.
Daniel, actually you have pull up a little bar at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
How do you erase what you inadvertently put on there? I just have something happen, I don't want.
Okay.
Pointed it out.
All right, Bill, I'm going to show you exactly what you did here. So let's say we tap on this artist that I've never heard of in my life. How do you get back?
I've got it.
Almost everywhere on iOS devices, so iPads and iPhones, you're going to see the little back arrow on the top left that should take you back to where you just came from. So once you're there, let me see. Okay, luckily it didn't create a radio station from there. That's good. If it did create a radio station, that's when you would edit and then remove that radio station like we did a second ago. Sandy.
How did you get to the radio station now?
Okay.
Page?
So go into the music app. It's going to look like, I'll show you here really quick. I can't multi-touch this. I need a new screen. So it's going to look like the little music note.
Got it.
Yep. So once you go in there, and then radio is on the very bottom left on here. And you'll see the radio button, tap that, and you'll get exactly where we are.
Daniel,
Yes, sir.
one other quick question. I presume there is a charge to buy one of these stations.
To buy the stations, no. Like to listen to it, there's no charge at all. It's when you want to buy the song through iTunes that there's a charge.
Okay, I'm seeing up there, looks like a figure.
Yep, $129, that's to buy the song. So to buy the...
Nothing to do with the station.
Correct. So to buy, what song's playing? The Way You Look Tonight by Frank Sinatra, it would be the $129. So yeah, that's the other thing. Instead of just adding to the iTunes wish list with the start button, if you want to go out right and buy that song, you've always got the price button right up there, so you can do it straight through there. So,
Buy anything, no?
yeah, absolutely. Don't even worry about the price tag then.
Yeah.
I don't think I've bought any songs through iTunes Radio because most of them I already have.
But in order to buy something, if you are trying, well, let's say that you inadvertently, something says you need to pay for this thing, you have to put in your
Apple ID password.
So that's the safeguard
So, exactly.
for us to
Exactly.
consume the market.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mine says I need a podcast. I don't know what I'm doing, so I can't push anything.
Okay, so hit cancel because you're in the iTunes store still. If you're in the music app, that's when you're going to see the radio stations.
What about when I'm in the music and the other place that says I need a podcast?
It's saying you need the podcast app because you're trying to buy a podcast. Podcasts do require a separate app, which if you hit OK, it'll take you directly into the app store so you can download it through there.
That's podcast is free.
Yes, some podcasts aren't, but in general, most of them are. The app itself is free as well. It's just built by Apple. It used to all go into the music app, and then everybody started complaining because, I mean, obviously there's too much that it's trying to do, so they started separating out some of these services. So yeah, that is iTunes Radio. Does anybody have any questions before we leave the radio stations? Okay. Well, we are going to talk briefly. Well, do we need to talk about music? Does everybody know how it's categorized by song, artist, or album from there? Yeah, okay. I think we're okay. Don, you all right? Okay, just make sure. To turn it off, so swipe again from the bottom. Yep, so hit stop.
Oh,
So yeah, let me briefly talk about it again. On Control Center, if it doesn't have if it's got the little straight up and down lines, two of them next to each other, that's the pause button. If it's got a square next to it, that's stop. So if you're ever in a spot where you cannot figure out which app is pulling information from, just pull up the Control Center and hit stop or pause. You're fine. I have mine on Do Not Disturb during these so that I don't get random notifications from everybody. Okay, so if that's the case, let's talk about Spotlight. It's one of the features that's built into every iPad, every iOS device that's iOS 7 and newer. Technically, it's on the old ones too, it's just pulled up differently. But Spotlight is great for, let's say you downloaded a lot of music, you downloaded a lot of apps, and you don't know where you put them. Or in my case, you have a fiance who makes you start using folders, and you hate folders because you don't know where you put it. What this does is this will let you search for anything and everything on your iPad. So for example, to pull it up, yeah, that would be the first step. So to pull it up, you swipe about halfway down the screen until you see the search bar up here and then your keyboard. Your keyboard may not look like mine, I've got it separated out. But in general, you should see where it says Search iPad. It's going to have a little search bar and keyboard where you can start typing. So let's say I'm looking for a specific email from my brother, and I don't know which email it's gone to. I don't know where it's at, I can just start typing in Jeremy. And here's what's cool. So, when I type in Jeremy, this is my brother, it'll pull up his contact information through the Contacts app. It'll pull up my contact because I have him listed as my brother. And then it will pull up any notes that relate to him. And then it will pull up any emails that I have from him. And it will search everything. So it will search reminders, because I've got a reminder that he has one of my movies. It'll pull up any reminder of messages that I sent him. And it will also allow me to search the web or Wikipedia. I wouldn't recommend doing that with a name because you're going to get 1,000 people that aren't even related to who you're looking for. But in general, it's a great way to find things that you know are on your iPad, but you don't know where, you don't know how to find them.
Sorry, can you explain again how you did that with Spotify, you said?
Just Spotlight, yeah. To pull it, to get it to activate, if you swipe down with one finger about halfway down the screen, and don't worry if it's a little bit confusing, Apple made 3 separate single finger gestures very similarly. So, if you swipe from all the way to the top of the screen, you're going to get notification center. If you swipe from the bottom of the screen, you're going to get control center, and halfway it's Spotlight. So it's a little bit confusing in terms of how you pull it up, but it gives you the ability to search everything and anything. I can also look for, like I said, apps. So if I'm looking for NPR radio, I can start typing in NPR, and it's going to pull up the NPR News app that I have. It's also going to pull up NPR Music. So I can look directly through there. It's also going to pull up an email that we have from one of our stalwarts here, Buzz. He sent me an email a while back from NPR. So it even pulls that up. And then, of course, if it can't find anything else, which I purposely did this one because I knew there wasn't much on here about NPR, you can then search web or search Wikipedia. So if I search web, it's going to take me to Google, take me directly to the search of whatever NPR pulls up, just like this. If I tap search web, it's going to pull this up, and voila. So it'll take you directly there, and it'll also, if I tap search Wikipedia, it will take me directly to the Wikipedia page that is applicable to NPR.
Mine's just pulling up my contacts.
And it may only pull up, so it also is pulling up events. So events in your calendar, because that is the only thing, because NA is so broad, it's pulling in what it thinks will pull in. Like if you typed in Daniel, if I've sent you a lot of emails, it will pull up my contact information, it will pull up all the emails I've sent you as well, and anything else on your iPad pertaining to
It's
that.
not one of all those emails that I sent my sister. And I put in Steve Butler and pull up my notes.
You may have your spotlights. I don't think you can change those, but let me double check. You shouldn't be able to change, they should have taken those features away.
For,
Look at you, funny.
yeah, I've got the same problem. It'll pull up just
Just
like
like
Daniel Knott, it'll just pull that up really once. I don't know.
Yeah, because they took away the ability to modify your spotlights. So just, we'll take a look at your two since you guys did the one that I have an issue.
I put in Daniel, not DA, and I didn't get you.
Weird. Okay, I will have to take a look.
So we
Well,
need to
here
be
you
more
are.
specific,
Just
like
check
Daniel Knott emails. Or-
Potentially, but we'll see. Yeah. But we'll take a look at that after the tech talk. There could be some. Before, during the iOS 7 beta, they allowed you to say exclude certain items from Spotlight, kind of like they do with the Mac. After that, as far as I know, they took that out. So we'll take a look and see what's going on. Because I know it's pulling in events from Calendar and from your contacts, and it may be the same on there. So maybe just be a setting that needs to be tailored. All right. Well, this is. Hey guys. These are the major things that I really wanted to talk about today. And normally what we do in these tech talks for those that haven't been here before is that we leave the last bit of it open for discussion. So for things that are bothering you, things that you have issues with being able to use, fire away, and that's what we're here for.
If you've got a file and want to change the name of it, refresh my memory, how do you do that?
On Pages?
Yeah, I mean, like you've got a file there.
Oh, a folder. Okay.
Folder,
Yes.
sorry.
Okay, so to change the name of a folder, if you go into the folder, oh, hold on, I'm sorry. If you hold the icon of a folder or any app until they start shaping like that, you're going to see this change to an editable surface. So if I tap on the end of Finance, I can then delete that and change it to whatever I want.
Okay.
Okay, no problem. And when you're done, again, when you're done editing, if you hit the home button, it's gonna go back to non-wiggly phase, and then you can start editing, or you can start moving around like you normally do. Okay?
I've got an app on my phone, and it says I have it on here, but when I try to open it, it won't open.
Okay.
It's Flipboard.
Oh, Flipboard?
And I have, it works on there. I know, I can see.
Yeah, I think I was the only
One
one.
that's, downloaded it
So it looks like, so, are you trying to,
I have an existing account, and I don't know what the password is.
did you give that to us? Okay. Try to, can I borrow your phone really quick? Take a look. So we're talking about Flipboard, everybody. If you don't know, that's this app right down here. It's phenomenal if you like news. It'll pull up news of pretty much anything and everything from all sorts of news sources. It's called Flipboard. F-L-I-B, or F-L-I-P, B-O-R-A-D. B-O-A-R-D, I'm sorry, not dyslexic. And so, like, for example, I've got technology pulled up on here, but these are all the different categories that I have in mind. So I've got photography, technology, auto, because I love cars. And then I can go in there on any of these subjects, and it breaks it down into what looks like a digital magazine, where I can just peruse different articles straight through there. And if I like an article, like the new Jetta, if I like that article, I can tap on it, I can read the whole thing, and then I can flip it into my own magazine. So it makes it really cool if you want to be able to find new stuff going on around the world. It is an app. Mm-hmm. Yep. So let's see what is going on with yours. So yours should be. Just give you the username. Your username should just be little wall. As far as your password, I have no idea. That could be anything and everything. Then you missed the tech talk, man.
You good? You good? I'm gonna ask you the question a little later on.
That would be it right there. You actually already own it. Looks like you downloaded on this.
Yeah.
The Gerald.
Yes, sir.
Right, it's not on here, it doesn't have the open button. You may have downloaded it before, then you see your.
Yes, sir.
Yep, and then when you download it, you have a free account. You just make a username.
Oh,
and set it up.
With the case.
Okay, perfect. So then you
That's
can.
there, same thing for
No, this is different. You can make it the same options, and I recommend doing that, but it's technically a different user. Okay. Is that password working? No? Okay, well, we will take a look afterwards and see if we can reset the password. But that's the only thing keeping you right there, is just the password. And we will save it this time, so that if it happens again, we'll be able to bail you out. Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions?
Yeah, do you recommend a calculator?
Do I recommend a calculator? For a nerd like me, yes. I would definitely say so. The calculator that I have is digits. It's great because it's got tons. It's got all the scientific formulas for the functions, and it's got a tape roll. So it's kind of like having one of those, tape roll. It's called digits. Yeah. So it's a great way. Yeah, there's tons of different calculators in there.
All Microsoft, like Word and Excel and all those are free.
Okay. They're free, but they're not really free. So Word, Excel, and PowerPoint on the iPad are free to download, but then you have to have a Office 365 subscription to be able to use it, which I think is $100-something a month. So it gets, or I'm sorry, a year. So it gets pretty expensive over a long period of time.
I thought.
It's great. That's why it's still on the iPad. I kind of recommend having pages, keynote numbers. Those are made by Apple. They've kind of become a little bit simplistic in the last update, and I'm hoping they kind of rectify that. But it's much, much cheaper. I mean, it's a one-time purchase, and then. Any other questions? No. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming. This has been one of the biggest tech talks that we've had in a while. It's nice. And next week, we're talking about the advanced stuff with the iPad. So, doing different things with the Apple TV and the iPad, doing multi-touch gestures and things like that. So.
And we'll be doing Apple TV.
Yeah, we'll be talking about what I'm doing right now with the Apple TV and how you can do stuff like that at your house. So there's a lot of things to do with it. Again, thank you so much, everybody, for coming. I'm going to go ahead and start the video now. Thank you so much for coming.
Welcome your cupcakes.